Right, so let's get into it, shall we? I want to talk about clones, dupes, copies, that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about fakes, so I'm not talking about when people try to make the fragrance look like it's the real thing and who knows what the hell they put in there. Those kind of fakes of Tom Ford and Creed that you get on eBay potentially could have cat's piss and white spirit in there for all you know. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about dupes, fragrances inspired by, and really I just wanted to get people's opinion on what do you think about dupes, the kind of moral debate about it, and how do you feel, and would you buy or do you own dupes and copies, and do you wear them, do you enjoy them as much as your original stuff? So I thought I'd give you my perspective. I think that they are okay, but only in certain circumstances. So what I mean by that is there is certainly a market for the likes of Perfume Parlour, and you've also got Dua fragrances and others. Parfums Vintage Do inspired by, they've concentrated on Creed Aventus, but now they're moving on. There's going to be a La Nuit de l'Homme clone out. Mr. Smelly's got a bottle of it. It's called Suave. It smells very, very good. But what do I think? Well, I think if these houses are copying big houses that have got big pockets, then I don't think they're doing that much harm. Okay, you could argue that the perfumer behind it, it's not fair on him or her, their expertise and creativity to just be knocked off by by some kind of crazy machine that does most of the work. It is a little bit unfair, but unfortunately in this day and age it is something that happens. And if a fragrance is very expensive and therefore out of reach for some people or even the majority of people, then there is room in the market for a copy or a dupe or a clone, I think. But that being said, I do not like the idea that a small indie house would get cloned or duped, because that will actually affect them on a much bigger level. So if, for example, one of these clone houses was to go out and copy a zoologist or imaginary authors or 4160 Tuesdays, then that means some people will actually go and buy that instead of the original fragrance. And those companies are not massive companies. It will hit them. And I definitely don't like that. So I guess what I'm saying, my morals are, yeah, hit someone who's a massive company. They will probably still take a bit of a loss because of it, but they can handle it, and you know, it's a massive market out there. So I'm okay with it on that score, but definitely would not buy a dupe or a clone of any of the indie houses out there, because I like to support those smaller companies that put their heart and their soul into every single bottle. That's where I stand with that. Now, what do I actually feel about owning a clone or a dupe? If I'm honest with you, I don't have the love for my clones and my dupes the same way that I have love for my genuine fragrances. It's not something I've thought deeply about really until now. It's just that I see them as lower value and I see them as not proper, and therefore I don't reach for them that much. The Perfume Parlour's Neroli Portofino is excellent, and Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino is very, very expensive, and you need to spray a lot because it's quite a light fragrance. Now I do get actually okay performance from Tom Ford, but I still need to spray a lot to get that performance. That means a bottle is not going to last me very long if I go through a stage of wearing it quite a lot. And therefore the Perfume Parlour version, it smells really, really good. It does the trick, and I can spray a shit ton of it, and it's cheap. It's really, really cheap. So that's the one that I wear the most out of any of the clones and dupes that I own. simply because I think it really does fulfill a need. I kind of want to keep my bottle of Tom Ford Neroli Portofino. It's a bit stupid maybe, but I kind of don't want it to run out. So therefore I do use this a lot. I've got one in my work drawer and one here at home. And sometimes, you know, halfway through the day, if I feel like freshening up, out comes this, and I spray it, and I've had compliments from colleagues on it as well. So that's the one that I use the most because it really does fill a hole. Now I've also got another Tom Ford dupe, and that is Soleil Blanche, or Soleil Blanc if it's Tom Ford. And this one smells really, really excellent. It smells really close to the original, but for some reason I don't really spray it very often. Now I can't really explain why. I've got a decant of Soleil Blanc. I've gone through a couple of decants of Soleil Blanc, and I will sometimes spray the decant for a night out, and it's an excellent fragrance and it performs very, very well. And for some reason, even though that smells really, really close, I don't reach for it so much, and I think that's just psychologically because I know it's a cheap copy that I don't feel like reaching for it. I've also got Lady Portraits, which is a portrait of a lady clone, Frederic Malle. Now my problem with this one is the opening isn't quite right, and I don't quite like the opening of the fragrance. It's a bit off balance. Maybe there's just a bit too much on the patchouli. It's very kind of harsh, but it does settle down and it does get there. It does get there in the end, but I just don't feel like wearing it because I don't want to put up with the first sort of 20 minutes of it. This is an excellent house air freshener though, so I can spray the air with this, leave for work for the day, come back and actually still smell that. So they do definitely have a place, these clones and dupes. They can, because they're so cheap, you could use them to fragrance your house, to fragrance your fabrics, that kind of stuff. Bloody fireworks. What's it all about anyway? Oh yeah, it's that thingy guy for, yeah. So that's kind of where I stand with the clones. The only clone now I think I would get is if they were to do a Guerlain Le Plus Beau Jour de Ma Vie, just because that is so expensive. It cost me a lot of money for my bottle, and I just couldn't justify when it runs out replacing it, I don't think. So if a dupe came out of that, I think I would get it. So please let me know what you think of clones and dupes, whether you own any, what are the best ones, or would you, morally, do you think it's wrong completely? Is it out of order? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this has come up quite recently. What with Dua? Dua's facing a lot of controversy for various different reasons. And then we've got Parfums Vintage out there now, making some, I think, excellent fragrances, but I think they're not quite what you would call a dupe or a clone though. They're more an interpretation of a similar to kind of thing, and I really enjoy the Pineapple Vintage. I think it's the original one that I like, and the Intense, not so much the Noirs, but the original and the Intense are really quite nice, and I prefer them to Aventus. So that's saying something, I think. So yeah, do join in and let me know. It's definitely a thing that keeps coming up in the community. Something that's been brought up by Nick from The Scented Gent. Do follow him. He's got Instagram and Facebook. Just look for The Scented Gent. I'll probably paste a link in the description. He's definitely raised the issue, or you know, the controversy of it, as well as many others. So thank you for watching, and catch you all soon.